Somewhere in a gun safe right now, there's a rifle collecting dust that nobody's talking about. And it's quietly worth 10 times what the original owner ever paid for it. Remington built it, buried it, and told the world it was a failure. But the truth is, the engineers were decades ahead of everyone else in the room. And today, 7 of those forgotten rifles are worth more than most men's trucks. Coming in at number 7, the Remington Model 600. Look, this rifle broke every rule Remington had. Back in 1964, everybody building bolt guns was still stuck on walnut and blued steel. Then Remington rolls out this stubby little push-feed carbine with a nylon vent rib running down the barrel and a shark fin front sight sticking up like it means business. Here is the deal. This thing was built to be carried, not admired. Unloaded, it tips the scale at 5.5 pounds. Overall length sits at 37.25 inches. That is 4 inches shorter than the standard Model 700 ADL. Under the hood, this carbine was doing scout rifle business before scout rifles were even a thing. Colonel Jeff Cooper spent years preaching about a lightweight, fast-handling rifle with forward-mounted optics capability. The 600 was already there, years ahead of him. The trigger breaks clean at right around 2.2 pounds. That dog-leg bolt handle curls back tight against the stock, a straight-up nod to the old Model 30S from the 1920s. Now here is where it gets interesting. Remington had the guts to chamber this 5.5-pound carbine in 6.5 Remington Magnum and 350 Remington Magnum. The 350 round was a legitimate mechanical marvel. It squeezed the ballistics of a .35 Whelen into a case short enough to cycle through this tiny action. Honestly, that is short magnum thinking, 2 decades before short magnums became a marketing buzzword. But listen, strapping a full-house magnum into a 5.5-pound gun with a pressed wood stock is asking for trouble. The recoil was brutal. Shooters felt it in their teeth. The nylon rib got trashed by traditionalists, who called it a gimmick prone to warping in the heat. Sales tanked on the Magnum variants, and by 1968, Remington pulled the plug, rolling straight into the ribless 660 and Mohawk. Here is the twist though. Guides working brush country and steep mountain terrain today are hunting these things down specifically for that 350 Remington Magnum chambering. It has become something of a holy grail for bare defense guns. Even beat-up examples on the used market are pulling prices that laugh in the face of 50 years of inflation. Number 6 on the list, the Remington Model 788. Here is the deal. This is the budget rifle that embarrassed the flagship. 1967. Remington wanted a piece of that lever gun crowd. The guys buying Winchester Model 94 out of habit. So they built the 788 and priced it at $90. That undercut the Model 700 ADL by $50 and beat the Winchester by 10. On paper, it looked like a cheap gun. Plain birch stock, dull bluing, nothing to write home about. But under that budget skin sits one of the smartest bolt designs Remington ever built. Engineer Wayne Leake threw out the 2-lug front locking system entirely. Instead, the 788 locks up with 9 lugs arranged in 3 rows at the rear of the bolt. Rear locking, not front locking. That is a completely different animal from the 700. This layout hands you real advantages. The bolt throw is a short 60 degrees, so cycling is fast, and there is nothing crowding a low-mounted scope. And because there are no locking lug raceways cut into the front of the receiver, The whole receiver stays one thick, solid tube of chrome moly steel. Pair that with a massive recoil lug and a lock time of just 2.4 milliseconds, and this thing shoots stupid accurate right out of the box. Honestly, the 788 regularly outshot the more expensive 700 in factory stock accuracy trials. It made the flagship look bad. Now here is the deal breaker. Machining 9 internal locking lug raceways into a receiver is a nightmare for a budget rifle. The tooling costs ran into the millions. Remington had to spread that cost across the rimfire Model 580 line just to make the math work. Turns out the production cost barely undercut the 700 at all, but the retail price sure did, and that margin got eaten alive. Remington killed it in 1983 after moving over 500,000 units. Today, the rare 18.5-inch carbine version chambered in 708 and the left-handed models from 69 are pulling serious money. Precision shooters who understand what a heavy, rigid rear-locked action does for accuracy still chase these down hard. Sitting at number 5, the Remington Nylon 66. This is solid, but wait until you see the monster at number 1. Decades before polymer-framed handguns and synthetic rifle stocks became the industry standard, Remington teamed up with the chemists at DuPont and built something nobody expected. 1959. The Nylon 66 hits the market as the first mass-production rimfire to lean almost entirely on synthetic material for structural integrity. The stock and receiver cover are molded from Zytel Nylon 101. Stable, dense, corrosion-proof. The internal steel parts actually ride directly against that nylon surface, riding on the self-lubricating property of the polymer itself. Blowback action barely needs maintenance, and it laughs off freezing temperatures and heavy moisture that would seize up a traditional rimfire. Remington did not just claim this thing was tough. They proved it. Exhibition shooter Tom Fry used a string of nylon 66s to hit 100,010 wood blocks tossed into the air over multiple days. He missed 100,004 hits without a single mechanical failure. That kind of stunt does not happen by accident. 14 rounds load into a tube magazine buried right inside the stock, keeping the whole profile clean and snag-free. Remington ran some genuinely striking color options. Mohawk Brown was the bread and butter finish, Seneca Green was rarer, and the Apache Black paired a black stock with a bright chrome-plated barrel and receiver that turned heads at the range. Production ran clean through 1991, north of 1 million units out the door. But here is the deal breaker on the collector side. Most of these got treated as truck guns. Tossed around, scratched up, never babied. Finding one in genuinely mint condition, especially in Seneca Green or Apache Black, takes real hunting and a real budget. Standard examples run $300 to $600 these days. Clean rare color variants are clearing $1,500 to over $2,400. At number 4, the Remington Model 8 and 81 Woodsmaster. I know the fanboys are going to say, lever guns ruled the woods back then. Fair. But this rifle is the reason that started to change. Turn of the century, lever action ran the table in North American hunting camps. Then 1906 hits, and Remington drops the auto-loading repeating rifle, renamed the Model 8 in 1911. Designed by John Moses Browning himself, patent dated all the way back to 1900, this was the first genuinely successful centerfire semi-auto sporting rifle built in America. Browning went with a long recoil system, mechanically identical to his famous Auto 5 shotgun. On firing, the barrel and bolt stay locked together and travel rearward inside a full-length steel barrel shroud. Once fully rearward, the bolt holds while a heavy spring drives the barrel forward, extracting and ejecting the spent case before the bolt slams up to chamber the next round. That mechanical dance soaks up a serious amount of recoil, making it shoot soft, but it also makes for a nose-heavy, mechanically dense rifle. Remington backed this up with a proprietary rimless lineup, 25, 30, 32, and 35 Remington, engineered to feed flawlessly from the fixed 5-round magazine. The 35 Remington round in particular became a brush country legend for deer and black bear. This rifle did not just win over hunters. Law enforcement wanted in too. Companies like Peace Officers Equipment modified them to accept 15 and 20-round extended magazines. Most famously, former Texas Ranger Frank Hamer carried a modified Model 8 chambered in 35 Remington when he ambushed Bonnie Parker and Clyde Barrow back in 1934. Fabrique Nationale even built a limited run in Europe under the name FN Model 1900. Fewer than 5,000 units. Here is the deal breaker. Those precision machined steel parts and the long recoil mechanism got too expensive to produce in the post-war economy. Remington cut it in 1950 and moved to the gas-operated Model 740 instead. Today, original Model 8 and 81 rifles, especially the engraved Grade A through F factory guns and rare police variants, are pulling auction prices from $6,000 up past $10,000 for the premier grades. Number 3. The Remington Model 14 and 141 Gamemaster, entering the elite tier now, and this one is a straight-up masterclass in engineering. While Browning was busy owning the semi-auto space, Remington handed the pump gun project to another mechanical genius, John Pedersen. 1912. The Model 14 drops, built to go head-to-head with lever gun dominance using a slide-action design. The big problem with tube-fed rifles has always been chain fire risk. Stack-pointed Spitzer bullets nose to primer in a steel tube, and recoil can drive one bullet tip straight into the primer ahead of it. Pedersen solved this with real elegance, a spiral-fluted magazine tube. That helical geometry tilts each round slightly off-center, so the bullet nose rests against the brass case ahead of it instead of lining up on the primer. Beyond that, the entire magazine tube slides forward and back with the forend during cycling. The receiver runs fully enclosed, shielding the action from dirt and protecting the shooter if a case ever ruptures. It even features a takedown system, splitting the rifle into 2 halves via a knurled screw for easy transport. 1935 brought an update: heavier wood, a shotgun-style steel butt plate, longer barrel, and a new name, the 141 Gamemaster. This version added a small brass cartridge base inlay on the left side of the receiver, stamped with the caliber. Slick touch. Now here is the deal breaker: that spiral fluted tube and the enclosed slide mechanism, while brilliant, made this rifle a nightmare to service in the field. Get grit or a dent in that fluted tube, and cycling turns gritty and unreliable fast. It demanded real care, which is not what most working hunters wanted to deal with in the wet timber of the Northeast. Production ended in 1950, when the machined Model 141 gave way to the cheaper stamped metal Model 760. Finding a 14 or 141 in tight condition today is genuinely rare. Collectors are chasing early thumbnail safety models, the Special, Peerless, and Premier grades, and oddball chamberings like the 14.5 in 3840 and 4440. Number 2. The Remington 541S and 541T Custom Sporters. Closer to the crown now. This is the aristocrat of the rimfire world. Most .22 caliber rifles have always been budget plinkers, mass-produced and forgettable. 1972. Remington saw a gap for something else entirely: an adult-sized, tight tolerance, genuinely premium .22 long rifle bolt gun built with the same care as their top-tier centerfire sporters. That vision became the 541S Custom Sporter. Produced through 1984, the S model turns heads. Factory scroll engraving cut right into the receiver, glossy blued steel, and an American walnut stock with real figure, accented by a faux rosewood forend tip, grip cap, and butt plate. Underneath that showroom finish sits a genuine precision tool, a fully adjustable match-grade trigger, and a dead-accurate 24-inch barrel deliver competition-level groups. Following the S model, Remington rolled out the 541T in 1986, running until '99. They dropped the engraving and the faux rosewood for a matte finish and more traditional walnut, but kept the same excellent lockwork, dual extractor claws, that 24-inch barrel, and sub-1 MOA accuracy. A heavy barrel variant of the T model showed up too, built for silhouette shooters and small game hunters, chasing extra thermal stability. When the 541 line finally ended, it left a real void for heritage-grade 22s. Thanks to their reputation for stunning accuracy and top-shelf craftsmanship, both the S and T models have climbed steadily on the secondary market. Rifles that retailed for $399 to $455 near the end of their run are now pulling $1,200 to $1,600 in mint condition, sometimes more when the bidding gets heated. Sound off below if you have ever handled one of these, because the #1 spot on this list takes lightweight engineering, somewhere Remington had no business going this early. And the #1 spot, the Remington Model 700 Titanium. This is it, the crown. Long before the industry got obsessed with carbon-wrapped barrels and skeletonized actions, Remington built a factory rifle that jumped the timeline by almost 2 decades. Introduced in 2001 and produced in limited numbers through 2006, the Model 700 Titanium is a genuine breakthrough in commercial firearm manufacturing. The goal was simple on paper and brutal in execution: build the ultimate mountain rifle, tough enough for the harshest alpine country, with as much dead weight stripped away as physically possible. Remington machined the entire receiver from solid titanium, making them the first major manufacturer to mass-produce a titanium sporting rifle. The bolt body got deep spiral fluting to shave more ounces, and the bolt knob was skeletonized. That slim 22-inch barrel and action rides in an ultra-light Bell & Carlson stock, reinforced with carbon fiber and Kevlar, with a factory recoil pad. The weight numbers are ridiculous. Short-action versions come in at 5¼ pounds. Long-action Magnum variants only add ¼ pound on top of that. That means a fully scoped, Magnum-caliber hunting rifle, staying under 7 pounds all in. Now let's put it next to the competition on this list. The Model 600 at #7 chased lightweight carry decades earlier, but it topped out around 5½ pounds using a nylon rib and pressed wood, nowhere near the machining sophistication of a titanium receiver. And the 788 at #6 proved Remington could out-engineer its own flagship on a budget, but budget was the whole point. The titanium flips that completely. It takes the featherweight ambition of the 600 and the engineering audacity of the 788 and fuses them into a no-compromise, money-is-no-object mountain rifle. Here is the deal breaker, and it is a big one. Titanium is brutal to machine. It chews through cutting tools and drives production costs through the roof. Remington had to price this thing at $11.99 MSRP, nearly double a standard. 700. In the early 2000s, a $1,000 plus price tag on a factory. Remington was a hard pill to swallow, and sales collapsed. Remington pulled it in 2006. But look at where the industry went. Hunters today are dropping $3,000 or more on custom lightweight builds chasing these exact same specs. The 700 Titanium has reached mythical status among sheep and mountain hunters, and used examples are consistently clearing well past original MSRP. 7 rifles. 7 reasons Remington got it right before the market was ready. Here is the truth. Being first to market is not always a blessing. Look at the 600 and the Titanium. Both of them showed up years, sometimes decades, ahead of the crowd that would eventually pay top dollar for exactly what they were selling. Remington ate the cost of that timing. Boutique builders and custom shops are the ones cashing in now. Then you've got the 788, the Model 8, and the 141. These were built in an era when hand-fitted tolerances and precision machined steel still made economic sense. That era is gone. Nobody is retooling a factory line to cut 9 internal locking lugs into a budget rifle ever again. That is exactly why the values keep climbing. You cannot rebuild what does not exist anymore. And the Nylon 66. That rifle quietly did the heavy lifting of getting American shooters comfortable with synthetic materials, decades before polymer took over the handgun world. The window to grab any of these 7 for reasonable money is closing fast. Every year, more of them disappear into private collections and stay there. Train hard, stay safe, and I will see you downrange.